Cool, bud. So what you got for us today? Who are you going to look at today?
Got Jeff, a new student from a couple weeks ago that came in for his introductory first lesson, and had a couple of interesting things to work on with him. And I was going to
Cool.
go over that with you today. We'll start with just go over the first couple videos here. This is before we made any changes, so I was just kind of watching him hit some balls at the beginning of the session. And let's see here. All right, so let's get this scroll here. Okay, so playthrough's not working, so I'll scroll through it. So yeah, so start to take away, get a little bit of the kind of elbows come apart, rolls the face open a bit. You can see his knees have separated, so he's turned, but he's not really kind of loading himself into the ground much. He just kind of rolls into that trail heel, and everything kind of rolls inside. Not much stretch or elasticity to it.
So when you say, go back to that takeaway a minute for me, bud. So when you say open, what do you like to see during that, when you get to that P2 position? What do you like to see that club face doing?
At this position here?
Yeah.
Yeah, at that position there, let's see if I can make it, but kind of standard is if I can see something that almost matches that.
Perfect.
At that point there. Yeah, I don't like to see a whole lot at that position, too much change of the face from neutral, because if the players kind of stayed long armed and used the ribs properly, at that point the face to me shouldn't move that much to get to that spot.
Good. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, obviously it's a little bit different with everybody, but the biggest for standard, I like to see that face pretty neutral to the spine at that point.
Yeah.
Now you can see as the arms get up to the top, he kind of likes to get it a bit cuppy because it feels like more of a hinge to him. He just thought that's what he was supposed to do. So gets slightly cuppy up to the top, and then excuse me.
It was more of a conceptual thing. He thought that
just more of a thought. Yeah, I wasn't really aware of what it was supposed to be to start with. So, and then what you'll start to see is some classic get that shaft upright and out in front. Yeah. And then from there, that's going to be quite hard to do well repetitively, obviously. And kind of stalls out and does a pretty good job of squaring the face and trying to create room and get through it so he can start it somewhat online, but just not a very efficient move. But for a good athlete, a lot of potential there. And then from face on, the first one, ball's a little deep for me, just looking at this first little picture here.
Yeah, 7 iron, is it? That 7-6 iron, something like
that. 7.
Yeah,
I believe. Yep. So and then couple little setup things there. You can see the grip. I would kind of like to
zoom in on that grip.
Get that. Yeah, so kind of just you can see on that. Not so much the grip's horrible, but the setup to it, I would like to see that handle in a little bit of a different place, and also
almost look like that lead arm's like across the rib cage way too much.
Yeah, it couldn't. It was kind of locked in there and couldn't really move very well from that position either. So that was kind of the first thing from face on view.
Yeah.
And he got to his heel and got quite a bit of turn, like we talked about from the down the line view. But there wasn't really much in his legs he could use to push with. It was more like he just got into his heel. It wasn't really. Yeah. He didn't get into his heel after he'd created an arch. He got into his heel directly into his heel. So there wasn't really much in his right foot. And it didn't really feel like he could get much of a push from there. And then we saw on the face on down the line from here, it's going to be all about trying to give himself time and space to square it up. And that's why I threw here for one thing. I was a bit worried about that lead knee because there's going to be there's a lot of stress and torque on that through some of these swings you can see, just because he doesn't get out of the way in time. And then obviously not a whole lot of room to release it and let it out. So just kind of fights his way through the finish there. And now his lead heel's back on the ground. So, yeah. So just to get started, let's get Let's start with just a couple takeaway things here. Yeah, so just to get them started, one, and
zoom in a bit closer on that one there, Wills.
Okay.
Get the other one. When you get the other one up, zoom in a bit closer on there.
Okay.
Get up of that fine physique of a man there.
Okay, I think this is first one. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, like we talked about on the right here.
And obviously something you wouldn't see from that angle is something that was inhibiting or restricting those elbows from moving further apart was what that lead arm was doing, kind of at a setup position that we were able to see from face on, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why it's, for me, I'm always careful before I look at both, maybe one or two different angles at least before I say too much, because it's easy to kind of see one thing and dive in there, but then it's like, oh, well, you couldn't do that because of this anyway. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So like we talked about before there, kind of just rolling it to that point, real passive through the body, didn't feel a whole lot. Here, this is him feeling, and you can see that face is going to stay
way
a
different,
little bit stronger. Feels like his arms are long, and he feels like that he's taking this away by the buttons on his shirt starting to turn to the right.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah. So this is basically all rib cage feeling for him. And then as we get up to the top there, he was kind of going the other way, just as a feel from trying to go from that cup position to feeling like it's at least neutral.
Yeah.
And the club's a little bit more, thumbs pointed a little bit more behind him. And it made his right arm feel like it was much more in front of him.
Okay.
So this was a good feel for him. Before this way, when he was doing a few of these, he had trouble feeling like he couldn't keep the ball in his arms until we talked about some of this, just because of the way his right arm was moving. So this just some backswing stuff we started with on that one, just to get to that point. And then
a little bit of difference in that trail arm structure up top there, where it was internally versus externally rotated, which obviously influenced the shaft to get a little bit more laid off, right?
Yeah, those first few swings he made, he really had an issue keeping that ball in there. So it was interesting to kind of see what feels it took for him to.
What was he like in terms of mobility in there? Because you get a lot of people, where I certainly experience and know a lot of people that can't really get it that external, including myself.
Yeah, his was average. I mean, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah,
but it wasn't where he has to do it properly to get to that point. He doesn't have the range where he can kind of fake that move. So it's almost like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And here
when I get a lot of students in that position, it's almost like you said, then you need to test them to see whether they've got the mobility to chuck the ball between there first.
Right.
And then you can kind of visually do it, can't you? So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So here I was explaining to him about his feet and how I wanted him to feel through his feet in the ground. So we made some moves with no club for a minute, and then we got I just gave him his club back and got back in the setup. And what I'm talking to him about here is for footwork, I like to kind of think of it like a tripod. Like we got one pressure point here, one little toe, and one back in the heel. So you kind of got the 3 points there with each foot is kind of the way I try to think about it. And for him on this right foot, I was trying to explain to him his right leg would straighten and make him feel like he was making a huge turn. Yeah. But he never really made an arch in his right foot, so he didn't really have that right leg to push with or anything firm to turn against on the backswing. And so for him here, this feel is he's trying to feel like on that takeaway as he gets wide, that at this point here, that in the beginning of that takeaway, if his hand path is correct, he'll feel a lot of big toe in that takeaway at that point.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, if he goes straight into his heel and his leg just kind of hyper extends to fake the turn, he never would really feel that very much.
That is such a key concept that you find with a lot of amateurs, and they'll see it online. Oh, you need to load the trail heel. You need to load the trail heel.
Yeah.
Some people, it's not functional to do it, A, but B, more so than the other, because it 9 times out of 10 will be more functional to load that in towards pressure towards that trail heel.
Yeah.
a lot of people just do it artificially, and then, like you said, end up locking out that trail leg, and then it's got nowhere to go but to go back the opposite way during downswing. So yeah, I think it's important to note that getting into that trail heel is great, but you can't just fake it. You need to get in there in the right way, otherwise the whole mechanics of the golf swing will just be completely out.
Exactly, because this big toe, or the big toe on the foot, is really what talks to the glute.
Yeah.
So if you really want that right hip and be able to use that rear end on the trail side to push with, you really need to make, like you said, we were talking about before, especially a lot of amateurs, if you just kind of turn inside and hyperextend the leg and you don't get that kind of stretch or heave phase here where you kind of feel like you're throwing the club out away from you, then it's easy to kind of get straight inside and not grab that toe and not have that right foot. So for him here, he's feeling like, I don't mind him going to his heel like we just talked about, but he has to feel like through, at least through the top of or through that point there, as he's on the way to the heel, that he really gets a lot of big toe to grab that ground. And he actually said through this that he really felt like his feet were grabbing the ground for the first time. He'd heard that expression before, but he didn't really know what that meant. So this is him feeling like the big toe is really his gas pedal for his golf swing.
Love that.
If he doesn't,
something that I did very recently. In fact, I think it was my last Instagram video where I put up about hitting balls barefoot and feeling like you're gripping the ground.
Oh yeah, and that's something a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure you read enough articles or watch videos on the internet. That sounds good, but if you've never really felt it, you don't really understand what you're trying to accomplish there. So,
exactly.
And another thing, obviously, is most. I'm going to say even athletes, but most people, the majority of people, I'm sure, don't do a whole lot on like foot function, foot strengthening, foot, all that type of stuff. And then you put your golf shoes on, which protects everything. And you really don't build that system. So that hidden balls, like you said, with no shoes on, a lot of times will wake up sensations and things that you had no idea about before. Yeah. So for him, this is feeling like
such a concept. I love it.
Yeah, that he's really loading that right foot, and then from there, once he got there, I said,
whole backswing structure from face on looks absolutely different gravy with that pivot and everything.
Oh, yeah, and then from here, I said, okay, now if you can use your right leg to push, what would that feel like? And that's when we get that little move there. But this wasn't. He had no feel of trying to get that lead knee kind of outside the ankle or around the corner or any of that. That's just kind of naturally what started when he started to feel like he could push from the inside of that leg. And then he's like, kind of from here, his sensation is that he can get to impact by pushing through that lead foot and allowing that leg to straighten this way.
Yeah, good.
Versus so you can see now he's in the kind of lead heel, got around the corner more, just way safer move here, and much better footwork at that point. So big thing with him was big toe. And then from down the line, just to kind of show once again what we were talking about with that before.
I love that big toe thing. I've not really thought about it as a tripod type of concept before. It just makes so much sense.
Yeah, that's kind of just what I told him, that he needs to make sure in his backswing his right foot's got those 3 points, and if not, he's got to start over. So, and then in here is where I was kind of explaining to him how before he would just kind of extend that leg to feel like he was making the turn. Whereas this one now, he's going with the feel of that big toe. And we were talking about how it might feel like it's not as big of a turn, but it's more of a move. It's going to be more powerful than just having just strictly more motion.
Better pelvic rotation.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just showing him the feel here. He felt like he could. He was like, "Is it okay if I can't turn from here?" I was like, "You can turn. It's not going to be the infinite range of motion you felt before because of the way you're getting into that heel." So for him, when he feels that big toe, he feels more inside the right knees loaded. So that's kind of feels that whole right leg's loaded more when he feels that big toe in the ground. And that's what we're talking about here, is that I don't want him to feel like he's so in the heel and his right leg is so straightened at the top. It's going to feel like he's more sitting in that right leg. So that's just kind of the discussion we're having at that point there on that part. So
just going through this whole thing, right, and having an awareness that a golf lesson is not just hitting balls, hit, repeat, rake, repeat, hit, rake, hit, rake, hit. like you got to do exactly what you've done through this lesson. You've done your whole due diligence with the player. You've talked them through concepts. You've talked them through their ideas. You've talked them through where they're going to move it. And you're putting them in positions they've never been in before, but you're making them comfortable with those. And you're also showing them that they can actually physically do it without a ball there.
Right. Yeah, that's been a thing for me over the last few years. That's been really good for me as a coach, is spending so much time with no ball, and then showing the player, even if you don't, but especially if you can show the player on camera, like, oh man, I can actually move like that. Like, yeah, you can do that. It's just when the ball's there, your brain won't let you do it yet. So it's not that you can't, it's that you, because if people get convinced, like, I can't do this, I can't do that, the odds of them doing it are not very good. So that's the big thing with no ball, is it kind of gives people the freedom to not fail, or feel like they're not failing during the lesson. Yep. So towards the end, I gave him the golf ball back. We probably hit 10 or 12 balls at the end after we went through some of this stuff here. So you can see here, this is a slightly different, or I can put the compare up actually, from where we started to where we ended the day. And here we go. Yeah. So
the whole structure is different. Gravy.
Yeah, just quite a bit different. That left arm's in a different spot, so definitely can move a little bit better here on this side. And then obviously before, we know what we ran into a little bit there. So nice wide turn here. Yeah, really loaded through the legs. You can see that right leg now. The knee stayed inside the ankle, so we're getting some kind of torque through that leg there, versus the right knee just kind of shifting out to the right. As you can see before here, we kind of just rolled away and not much in there. So much stronger feeling here, much more turn through the ribs, and going to be able to really use his legs much more here. So you can see kind of that way, the knees almost come together a bit as he started on the way down before. And now here, from there, he's feeling like he uses that right foot as the gas pedal. And that's where we start with. So this is just pretty much all right foot thought at this point for him. So he can kind of push and get to that lead side. And then from there, what you'll be able to see is that
he can really pull out of the same position as that one on the right for me.
Excuse me?
That impacts different gravy, but go back and put it to the same as what that one on the right is. It stopped at literally the same position there.
At the ball?
Yeah, or at P5.5. So there's your difference at impact. It's unbelievable difference.
Right. Yep. So
whip it back there to 5, between 5 and 6, like 5.5.
Somewhere in there.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. A couple more. There. Right. Now go to that position on the right. One more on the right there. Look at the difference.
Yeah. So it's slightly better there.
So different.
Yeah. You can see the way his neck was tilted. Neck was tilted before. How hard he would have to work to kind of throw that club left to get it around the corner. Like obviously that's begging to swing to the right, but from the position he was in, couldn't really do that. So just really didn't feel like he could get through the ball very well at all. With that one on the right, really stuck up through it. So now through the one on the new one on the left here, can get that lead leg to extend by pushing.
That impact alignment is gold.
Oh yeah. So this to him really was a good feeling. It felt like he said he felt like his lead leg was out of the way a lot earlier, so he wasn't on top of that knee as long. So that's going to be one, he's going to hit it way better, but two, that's going to be much safer.
Control that low point way better.
Yeah, control the low point way better. And then from here, I just wanted him to feel like on this side, the sensation was that he was creating the longest possible circle with the club head. So you can see kind of, we can get long and extended out through here, because before we were getting that look. Yeah. So really narrow, quite different there. than what we were working with before. So now from down the line, and let's go here and compare. Where are we? All right. So
same things.
Yeah. Just same thoughts here. Like you say rolly and kind of that way to the top before. Now working right foot and that right arm structure we did. Yeah, and with the ball there. Yeah, and with the ball there, the first few, this is kind of what I was looking at just to see to this point if we were loading much better, and definitely felt better and liked it more. And then on the way down, like we talked about before, this is the point where the shaft would kind of kick up, everything would work out, and then he would kind of stall. And so on the right from here, he just felt like he used that right foot, and that the mass of the club just kind of was along for the ride with him on the other side. So from there, he felt like he could just really keep going aggressively. Didn't feel the need to stop or need to hit it with his hands or really anything through the ball. So just felt a whole lot freer there. And then down into the ball and through it, that's just going to be way easier. And then you can see how that thing will rehinge itself and kind of exit up the arc on the other side. And then this one here is going to be not so much that way. Yeah. So just a lot freer, a lot stronger movement. Lot more good bends and tilts there. And then
because although, like you said earlier, right, that one on the right, he'd done a pretty good job of actually squaring the face at the ball. And when he touched it, okay, it wouldn't have been too bad, but the timing element was huge.
No, his good shots were okay. It's just when it was the ones that weren't good were really bad, and he didn't really understand why that was. So it was kind of frustrating to him, because you can feel like you do the same thing twice in a row, and one's great and the other one's 100 yards offline. So that can be that's a little bit confusing as a player, when it's like my swing couldn't have been that different twice in a row. So it's like, no, it's just what you're doing is really hard, and when it works, it's a miracle. So very good. Went through an hour, maybe hit. I let him hit 8 or 10. I watched at the beginning, and then at the end we probably hit 8 or 10 going through these drills, and this is what he knew he needed to leave with. But 45 minutes probably of the hour was spent with no golf ball.
So good. That's the key to coaching and understanding the student as well, is making sure you get that message across to them.
Right.